That was probably one of the best Las Vegas races, if not the best Las Vegas Cup race I think I've ever seen. That was incredible. Like, I had a feeling that we might see a good race because the package, the weather, and the type of track we're racing at, I felt like, okay, we might see a good race, but damn, that was good. Like, really, really good. And a lot of stuff happened. And yeah, the winner wasn't a surprise, but I was surprised at the fact that he won at this type of track this early in the season. But yeah, a lot of stuff happened. I got 4 pages of notes we gotta go over. So we started off with the restarts. I mean, that's something we had a feeling that was going to become a factor in this race, were the restarts. Again, with this type of track and this type of package, the restarts are going to be absolutely insane. 3 wide, 4 wide. I'm pretty sure there was even 5 wide, but the amount of side-by-side racing we saw for such a long period of time is what shocked me, especially because of how aggressive the track is and how it eats up the tires pretty quickly. I was surprised by how aggressive these drivers were racing and how close they were in, after about 5 or 6 laps, which usually when you look at a track like maybe Homestead, usually the fall off takes 3 or 4 laps and they spread out very quickly. I mean, right from the beginning already, on a crazy restart, Kyle Larson and William Byron, Hendrick Motorsports, they were the best team for sure here at this racetrack here today. They split Harvick 3 wide coming off of turn 3, and Byron would take the lead, which was kind of shocking because I still had a feeling that maybe Homestead was, I don't want to say a fluke, but let's just say Byron would mire back to like the 8th or 9th spot. But no, Byron had a really strong car. Like I said, split Kevin Harvick alongside with Kyle Larson, and Byron would lead lap 1 with Kyle Larson right behind him in 2nd. So again, on restarts, we saw a lot of drivers jostling and weaving their way for positions, drivers going from the top, cutting down to the bottom with that momentum on the top lane. It was really exciting to watch. So Byron led the first few laps, but then after some time, Chase Elliott would get his time in the sun. He had been trying to get by William Byron for some laps, then finally gets a good run on the top lane off of 4 and pushes Byron on the front stretch before slingshotting to the inside and taking the lead on lap 20. While those drivers were charging, some drivers like Kyle Busch were struggling. He fell from 14th to 18th, while Blaney, he started 26th and was all the way up to 9th already in just 20 laps. I was really surprised by how strong of a car Blaney had. I figured that he was just going to struggle in this race because he was so far back in the field, but no. All of the Penske drivers, we're going to talk about later, but all the Penske drivers and generally all the Hendrick drivers had really fast cars. Even at Matt DiBenedetto, a Penske affiliated driver who needed a strong run. He came into this race 34th in points, started 30th. He was already up to inside the top 15 after 20 laps. So even DiBenedetto, for as much as he struggled in this race, and even though he didn't get a good finish at the end, he also had a really good car. The results do not tell the full story. He had, I feel like, maybe a top 10 car. Then after the competition come out during pit stops, Chase Elliott came in first and came out 5th after a slow pit stop. On top of that, he had damage on the right side when something happened with the jack. I don't know if it was, put in incorrectly or what, but there was fender damage right in the middle where the jack goes in on the right side of Elliott's car, and they would make further changes later on in the race. They would stay on pit road a lot longer to be able to fix the damage. And again, I cannot stress this enough. When I tell you the restarts, they were even crazier than last year. I mean, you had 10 cars within 1 second of each other in a blanket 3 or 4 laps after a restart. Even last year, I don't think we saw that many cars bunched up together so long after a restart. But if you're a Kevin Harvick fan, you probably didn't care about that because he struggled the entire race. Fell back to 25th after a restart after making contact with Eric Jones and reported that the fender was bent up pretty badly on the left front. So while Harvick was struggling, the other 4 drivers of Keselowski and Blaney, they were going to be the new contenders of stage 1, or at least after that restart. They were the new contenders coming on strong alongside with Denny Hamlin, as they were all coming back inside the top 10. Well, especially Hamlin because he was the leader. But not that long after, with 33 to go, Kyle Larson would take the lead away from Hamlin. And this is when we really started to see how strong Kyle Larson was. As soon as he took the race lead, a caution did come out for debris, and that set up a restart. While Hamlin was first off of pit road, he pitted, Larson stayed out. This was an interesting strategy, trying to test to see, okay, how does a car run compared to drivers with new tires when you have old tires? We know how basically how detrimental it can be at a track like Homestead. And even though Las Vegas has similar characteristics, it's not as old and worn out as Homestead. So, and on top of that, with the restarts and how bunched up all the drivers stay on, and on top of that, he's out in front in clean air, it could potentially benefit Larson. What followed suit was 2 or 3 incredible laps. Larson and Logano restarted the race, and by staying out in front, that brought out the win. So Larson and Logano restarted the race, as they were 2 of the drivers that stayed out. Keselowski made a move on Logano, and I kid you not, for 2 or 3 laps straight, there were 3 wide. I believe it was Larson up top, I think Logano in the middle, and Brad Keselowski on the bottom, or Larson in the middle and Logano up top, one of the two, but they were 3 wide for 2 or 3 laps straight. On top of that, behind them, I think drivers like Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, and maybe another driver were also 3 wide. You had 2 rows of 3 wide from 1st to 6th. And again, this was 3 or 4 laps after a restart, and they did this consecutively. I'd never seen that type of race before. Even with this package, I've never seen that on a 1.5 mile track. Again, that's something you'd see at Daytona or Talladega, not a 1.5 mile track like Las Vegas. It was insane. Logano would eventually come out on top, while Chase Elliott, who was on new tires, was right behind him in 2nd place and would pass him with 18 laps to go. Keselowski, my pick for this win, if you saw MDK race day, started to flex his muscle. He took the lead from Chase Elliott, but was not able to clear him. Again, what followed suit was for multiple laps, just Elliott and Keselowski swapping the lead back and forth. And this is it's not a long green flag run, but again, this is like maybe 10, 12 laps into a run. This is when you start to expect to see the field start to spread out, the tires start to fall off, but no. Keselowski and Elliott, they were still swapping the lead, going up top, trying to get the run off the corner, cuts down to the inside. I mean, it was really fun seeing those 2 race. Keselowski would eventually have to clear Chase Elliott again, coming off of 4, coming to the white flag of stage 1, and Brad Keselowski would win stage 1 over Chase Elliott. 3rd was Ryan Blaney, who, again, recovered nicely from what I thought was going to be a day where he would struggle, started 26th. No, he finished 3rd already in stage 1. So all the Penske drivers, at least 2 of them, brought their A game here today. 4th was Denny Hamlin. 5th, Alex Bowman. 6th, Christopher Bell, continuing on that nice run from his win 2 weeks ago at Daytona. 7th, William Byron. 8th, Matt DiBenedetto. That was a great stage 1 for Matt DiBenedetto, who needed points really, really bad. 9th, Joe Logano, and Mark Truex Jr. rounds out the top 10. And to give you an idea on how crazy stage 1 is, that stage 1 was phenomenal. That was probably the best stage 1 I've ever seen on a 1.5 mile track. To give you an idea, though, on how crazy it was, and I'm going to read this note right here. Unofficially, but data showing that there were a whopping 35 green flag passes for the lead. So this is basically any time the lead changes. Doesn't matter if it's at the start-finish line or in turn 2. Any part of the track, there is a change for a lead. They counted that. 35 of them in the first stage. To give you an idea how crazy that is, last year in the Vegas races, in the fall last year, there were only 26 in the entire race. In the spring, 37 in the entire race. We already had 35 in stage 1. But that was Fantasyland. When stage 2 began, we started to get back to normal. Hamlin restarted the race, but fell quickly back to 3rd when the stage began. Keselowski was able to get out in front with Blaney in 2nd and DiBenedetto in 3rd. And once again, with the restarts, there were 7 to 10 cars within a second of each other. You could cover them with a blanket. And this was when also, but for a good part of stage 2, it was Penske and Wood Brothers Racing showing their muscle. But as the race went later on to a run, Hendrick Motorsports started to come along. Elliott, who had to start at the back after staying on pit road for that damage repair, was coming back, charging along. Meanwhile, Larson and Byron, they just started picking off Penske drivers one by one. They got by DiBenedetto, they got by Blaney, and Larson would eventually get by Brad Keselowski for the lead with on lap 26 with William Byron right behind him in 2nd. And that was basically it. I mean, pit stops did take place, but nothing dramatic happened there. And Larson would get up to a 5-second lead after pit stops and would easily win stage number 2. Keselowski in 2nd, Hamlin 3rd, Byron in 4th, Blaney 5th, 6th, Alex Bowman, 7th, Christopher Bell, 8th, Mark Truex Jr., 9th, Kyle Busch. That's the first time we ever saw him in the top 10, and Chase Elliott was able to rebound nicely to get to at least get 1 stage point. Stage 3 in the beginning started to get a bit more chaotic. At the start, Larson got a good jump on Denny Hamlin, but it was then surrounded by JGR drivers of Hamlin, Truex, and Kyle Busch up to 4th. If you watched this race, Busch struggled, and I mean struggled in stage 1. Could not get maybe inside the top 10. Was probably 13th was his highest running position in stage 1. And here he is inside the top 5. We then had incidents from this point on. Lap 98, the first real caution for at least a driver, or at least an incident on the racetrack. Chase Elliott just lost it off of turn number 2, slams into the right side of Kurt Busch and spins. Luckily, nobody hits him, but he does bring out the 5th caution of that race. With 89 laps to go, Aric Almirola cuts a tire in turn 3, and then as they head into turn number 1, the car lands on the splitter, which when that happens, you cannot turn the car at all, and Almirola slides up, smacks the outside wall, and brings out another caution. But that will end up being the final caution of the race. So after the Almirola incident, and drivers came on pit road, Larson, Keselowski, Bowman, Logano, and Kyle Busch were the first to pit, while drivers like Hamlin, Blaney, Truex, and Byron and Bell, they all stayed out. And when we got back to the restart, Larson was the first one off of pit road, but he had to restart 17th as he was the first driver on new tires. And when that restart began, you had Truex, Hamlin, Byron, Blaney, and DiBenedetto, your top 5. But after a few laps, similar to what we saw in Homestead, when you're on new tires, you're basically God. After a few laps, Larson had already gained 12 spots and went from 17th to being inside the top 5. And that really showed how much tires could make a difference at this type of track. I mean, out of nowhere, after a couple laps, boom, Larson's already in the mix for the lead. And I think that's a combination of 2 things. Number 1, shows how much tires make a difference. And number 2, how fast of a race car Kyle Larson had. I mean, I don't want to say he was unbeatable because he clearly had contenders, but it was going to be very difficult for anyone to challenge Larson and to keep him from winning. So while Larson was back inside the top 5 and back in the mix for the race lead, you had Joe Gibbs' teammates, Truex and Hamlin. I don't know what happened, during the meeting after the Homestead race, but it's clear that they did not get the message of to lay off each other. Obviously, if you saw the Homestead race, you know the incident between Hamlin and Truex in stage 2. That basically carried over into this race. We saw them swap the lead back and forth multiple times. On top of that, we saw them crowding each other where they would slide up the racetrack off of the corners to sort of pinch their driver near the wall. We saw them do that to each other multiple times. If you did not know that they were teammates, you would think they were rivals or something like that. It was pretty cool to see, but I don't think Joe Gibbs really enjoyed that moment, seeing 2 of his drivers race as hard as they did. And because of them racing so hard, that allowed Larson and Keselowski to join the mix. Hamlin was able to hold on to the lead, but Larson was able to slide into 2nd place, and Larson would regain the lead, taking over from Hamlin with 61 to go. Under 50 laps to go, the final pit stop would take place, and it looked like, I don't know if it was for sure, but it looked like Larson was trying to get onto pit road, didn't, missed pit road, so he had to slow down, lost so much track time. And originally, he probably had maybe a 1 to 2 second gap ahead of Brad Keselowski at this time. Because of him missing pit road, that lead shrank down to just 0.7 of a second. But even though, Larson or Keselowski was within reach, there was no way he was going to challenge Larson. And surely enough, just as he was, about to maybe challenge Larson, Larson just built his lead up once again. Only one more incident happened with 16 laps to go. Alex Bowman did cut a tire coming off of turn number 4 and tried to come onto pit road, but nearly just got slammed by Anthony Alfredo in 38 car. Anthony Alfredo just barely snuck by on the inside. Bowman did eventually get onto pit road, but he did not get all 4 tires below the orange box. Suffered a pit road penalty for a commitment line violation and had to do a pass through. And that was basically it for that race. During that time, no more cautions, no more real incidents. Larson was out to, I think, a 3 or 4 second lead. And Larson would go on to win for the first time on a 1.5 mile track, win in his 4th race for Hendrick Motorsports, would score his 7th career win of the season and his first in 13 races. The last time he went to victory lane was back in Dover when he drove for Chip Ganassi Racing in October of 2019, leading a race high of 103 laps. So let's take a look at the unofficial results. Again, they are to the left of your screen. Kyle Larson wins, like I said, for the first time in 2021, becomes the 4th different winner and the second driver to come out of the Hendrick Motorsports stable to go to victory lane this season. Second place is Brad Keselowski. My pick barely won. He was a strong driver, strong pick, but wasn't able to get the job done. Settles for second. Kyle Busch, third place. Wow, I was not expecting. If you saw how bad Kyle Busch was in stage 1, to see him get third place is kind of shocking. Yes, it's Kyle Busch, and we know that he is KFB and all that, but still, I was not expecting him to finish in third place, so really nice recovery for the 18 team. His teammate Denny Hamlin in fourth, Ryan Blaney with a very solid run in fifth place, sixth Martin Truex Jr., seventh is his teammate Christopher Bell, eighth William Byron, ninth Joey Logano. Logano had a weird day. He had moments, he did lead some laps, but I was kind of surprised he wasn't as much of a factor compared to his teammates like Blaney or Keselowski. He was sort of just there in the top 10. Didn't really make much noise, and if he did, it was very small, but still a solid day, finishing in ninth. And Eric Jones, who recovered after, I believe, cutting a tire earlier in the race, or smacking the wall earlier in the race. Nice recovery for him and that RPM team, finishing in the 10th spot. 11th is Stenhouse. 12th is Austin Dillon. 13th, Chase Elliott. After that, incident when he spun off of turn 2, he really wasn't able to come back to form, or at least come back to the Chase Elliott that we saw dominate a good portion of that race. He finishes in 13th. 14th is Buescher. 15th, Priest. 16th to Benedetto. 17th is Michael McDowell. Drew Blickensterfer, his crew chief, Michael McDowell's crew chief, did say that this race was going to be a race back to reality. They were just hoping to get away with a top 15 finish. Wasn't able to do that, just outside with the 17th place run, but they're in the playoffs, so it don't really matter where they finish from here on out. 18th is Ryan Newman. 19th, Kurt Busch, after that contact with Chase Elliott. That's why he finished so low. Kevin Harvick, 20th. Wow. I don't know exactly what happened. That team just struggled, and I mean struggled that entire race. It was, I don't want to say it was embarrassing, but it was just shocking by how bad they were. We expected Harvick to be up in the mix for the top 10, not struggling to stay on the lead lap. I mean, they were just horrible. It reminded me a lot of Martinsville when they were just struggling just to stay on the lead lap. It was quite shocking, and yes, I think he went into this race second in the point standings, was only one of 2 drivers to finish in the top 10 at the start of the season, but still, to see him struggle that badly was kind of shocking to see, to say the least. 21st is his teammate Chase Briscoe. 22nd, Tyler Reddick. 23rd, Ross Chastain and some other notables. 26th, Daniel Suarez. 27th, Alex Bowman with that cut tire. That's why he finished so low. Bubba Wallace had an issue with the engine. He had to go under the hood for multiple laps, finished multiple laps down in 28th. And Eric Almirola would finish 38th. So, my thoughts on this race. It was a great race. A really good race. I mean, was it better than Homestead? I don't know. It might have. Stage 1 was incredible. But I feel like stage 2 and stage 3, we got back to normal. Stage 2, nothing much really happened. Stage 3, some good stuff happened near the first half of that stage. It was just overall a really good race. As we, later on to the run in stage 3, things mellowed out. And, we saw the car spread out. And by that time, with this package, you get no racing, just because you're going either full throttle or you're letting off the gas just a little bit. But with that in mind, even though with all that stuff, it was still a really good race. And I think it tells me one thing with this package, that this package can only work on certain conditions. I think this package, this high downforce package, can only work on tracks that are very bumpy, has got some age to it, and it's also very cloudy. If you notice, a lot of the tracks that were cloudy and had age to it, this package ran pretty well at. Homestead, though, I think was an outlier, because I believe that race was like in the 80s to mid 80s, and it still was pretty fun to watch. But you look at tracks like Kansas, that is starting to become a fan favorite. Why? Because the track is run on the nighttime, and when it's run on the nighttime, it's a lot cooler. Also, Kansas got some age to it. It's going to be 10 years now this time by. I think this package runs well under those types of conditions. Other than that, it's not a good package. But next weekend we'll be at Phoenix. We're going to run the low downforce package, so should be interesting to see how that goes. And yeah, again, I just really enjoyed that race. And I was surprised by how well Larson ran, because I felt like with him being out of the car for about a year, I thought it would take a while for him to get the ball back rolling. Yes, he's done racing, but on dirt. And then you get in a stock car. I thought maybe halfway into the season we might start to see Larson come back to form, but last weekend at Homestead, he really brought it. He showed some muscle, had a really strong car last weekend, and he just did that times 5 this weekend. I mean, he had the best car, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it was going to take a lot for you to stop Kyle Larson. And in my opinion, this is the beginning of the redemption tour. Now that he's back in victory lane, now that he's in contention now to win races and championships, it's going to be interesting to see what happens on track in terms of sponsorship. Are there any sponsors that are going to come forward? But also off the track, because that is also just as important. Is he still, because now he is a NASCAR Cup Series winner, is he going to use his platform for good, for change, to bring, awareness to African American communities and things like that? Because, I mean, we cannot talk about Larson and not bring up the incident. I don't want it to seem that just because he's won now, that means he's off the hook. Or that means, I'm a Cup Series winner now. I can win races now. I don't have to worry about all the off-track stuff. No, you still need to worry about that, Larson. You still need to care a lot about that. So I hope he continues that journey and continues that awareness off the racetrack. But regardless, I'm very happy for Larson because I do feel like he admits what he did was wrong, and he really does mean it, and has done a lot to show that he really is sorry and that he really cares about the people that he hurt by saying that word. So I am really happy for Larson, and I'm also really interested in how the season goes, because Larson, again, is a driver that we didn't expect to win, maybe at least at this type of track, because if you look at all the tracks he's won at, either a 2-miler or a concrete 1-mile track, he's finished second 9 times on mile and a half racetrack. So for him to win this early on in the season gives me hope, a lot of hope, if you are a Hendrick Motorsports fan, because it seems like all 4 cars are just hitting on all 8 cylinders. Bowman, Elliott, Byron, and Larson looks like they could be serious playoff, and who knows, maybe even championship contenders as we get later on into the season. But that is going to conclude this episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. Guys, tell me in the comment section down below, what are your thoughts on this race? Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more content. But until next time, my name is JettMDK. Congratulations to Kyle Larson, your winner here at Las Vegas.